Like, I've been working my whole life. Like, I've always been that person.
How would you sell me a pen?
Oh, God. I'd figure out what's missing in your life and tell you the pen can fill it. Or find a pen that can fill it.
But see, that's just it. That I'll find out what's missing in your life. Your first thought had nothing to do with the pen.
No, what do you need?
And talk about what do I
Where are the
need?
voids?
That's the first question.
What do people make you feel like that and you don't want to feel like that anymore? Like, let me figure that out about you. I have to spend the day with you. And by the end of the day, I would figure out what that is and I'd go find a pen that could solve that. Or at least make you feel it, solve it, make you feel better about it.
But I need you as a seller, I need to know the buyer as a human being to be able to speak to their needs, their fears, their desires.
As a seller, which are the majority of my clients, I need to be able to take your home and make it something that everybody wants. And I have to be able to influence you to do that.
The Touré show. Okay, though. The Touré show. Okay, though.
That might be the best question I've ever been asked.
You're a phenomenal person. I mean, you legendary.
I am a fan of you, my brother.
So Owning Manhattan is this fantastic real estate show on Netflix. And watching it, I fell in love professionally with Tricia Lee, who's this badass black woman running Brooklyn sales, full of self-confidence, full of ego, full of professionalism, working with her husband. I was like, who is this woman? She is awesome. She's on the show to talk about real estate, about owning Manhattan, and what it means to be a truly free black woman. I love this episode. Let's get into it. Tricia Lee on Touré Show. Tricia, welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Nice to see you.
You too.
You know, watching Owning Manhattan, you really stand out because you're working with your husband, which is super cute, but also, and his deference to you, like she's the boss, she runs the show, is like really inspiring. That he's like, you know, I'm here to help. I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
But your confidence, your ego, your sense, like I can sell anything, I can do anything, I can run through walls. It's like so inspiring. And I'm like, you know, you need to find people, the very small number of people who can buy these very expensive things that you're selling, which is hard. And you have to knock on a lot of doors and call a lot of people to get one person to buy the thing. How do you have this confidence, this seller's ego confidence thing when you get a lot of no's?
Yeah. So, well, mostly no's. Yeah, I do. You know, I think that my story is very similar to a lot of people in the industry where we pivoted from something else that we were doing and decided that real estate was just going to be it. And I think that I got so much criticism when I opened my first business in Brooklyn. At the time, just the type of business it was and what I was trying to do. And then over time, slowly, like that business model became the trend. And so I went from being just kind of looked at something like, what is she doing?
You owned high-end nail salons.
I owned high-end, like, you know, they would call them upscale nail salons. They were eco-friendly. They were very trend-driven, very hygiene-focused. And at that time, that wasn't what was on every block. And I was doing that and doing it at a premium. And I was ridiculed for it. And then, you know, over time, it became our standard for what we would allow in our community and the type of services we wanted. And when I remember the last year of my business, New York Times was doing an article about the nail industry. And they're like, we'd love for you as an expert to speak on it. And I'm like, now I'm an expert of something that I used to be ridiculed about. But because a lot of that experience was being ridiculed, like I was already accustomed to a lot of no's and a lot of people not believing in me. And I've figured out in my personality how that drives me and how that kind of lights my fire.
What do you mean? That getting a no excites you?
Never getting a no excites me, but being underestimated. It's nice to know that you're going to be underestimated and also to know you're going to be successful. Like I've kind of, that's been my experience in my career. It's always like, why would you do that? And then it's like, oh, thank God you did that. You know? So real estate just, I was able to do it, but I was probably doing it differently than most people when I first started. I was kind of trying to find my own lane. do it my own way. And I just felt like it would work for me. I just felt like it would work and people would catch on.
What is the difference between a good real estate agent and a great real estate agent?
So many things. Like a good real estate agent does the job that's asked of them, but a great real estate agent does every job. Like, I'm not just going to sell you a house. I'm going to tell you where you work out. I'm going to tell you the best place to get a massage. I'm going to influence your life. Like, I'm the OG influencer.
So you will sell me a neighborhood, not just a house.
A lifestyle. Yeah. A lifestyle. And get to know you and figure out what that is, A lot of times I'm working with clients where I'm reshaping their life. So maybe, you're selling this big brownstone and you're going to do downtown condo living, and I'm getting you established with that. I especially love those cases where I'm working with somebody that's like, this is my time. I'm like, let's go. I'm all about that because I love luxury and I love over the top. So I'm your girl, and it's fun. And I've even worked with clients as far as to like walking them into the car dealership and being like, what's the new ride now? Like, what's your new whip? Because this is a whole new chapter we're walking into. It's a lot more than just selling the house. But in the work of selling the house, it's about being an excellent marketer. And a good salesperson, a good sales agent is not an excellent marketer. I'm an excellent marketer. I want the entire industry talking about my product so I can move it faster and better for my client. And the marketing piece doesn't get enough of the conversation in what we do because that is the core job.
Yeah, help me understand, because in my ignorant mind, I'm like, it's a beautiful house, a nice block,
Right.
Somebody's going to want it, and you're like, no.
Yeah. And that can be the job, and that can be a great job. It can be like a good job, like you said. But when you're great, you are working specifically in the neighborhoods that we are in New York. You're working in a lot of areas where people are trying to really push the price point. They're trying to get a certain price per square footage that they haven't gotten. Everyone feels that there's a special story to their home, and their home is worth more than that home. And, my job is to come in and to find that value and to tell that story and to market the hell out of that house so that so many people want it that I get you your number. Either I've created the clamoring effect, where everybody wants it, or I've just been so effective in my marketing that every broker knows about this home. So when they come across that one buyer, they immediately call me and they're like, oh, boom, Tricia's working on that project.
Are you partly an interior designer in terms of the staging? Is that critical to the marketing you're talking about?
You become. But so many of the facets of real estate were already my interest. Like, I'm one of those girls that was very much a beauty girl growing up, but I also grew up at Home Depot. Like, we know how to fix anything we own, and we know how to take care of anything we own in our house. So that wasn't as hard for me as I think it could be for some people because I was already interested. I already had a lot of ideas. I've always had like little Pinterest boards with different design elements and things like that. But yeah, if you're going to be great, eventually you do have to get good at interior design and even home design. There are times that your job is really helping a client lay out what they're going to do with the space, giving them vision so they can buy the home. I can walk you into a house and you see nothing. It's my job to show you what you're seeing.
That is really important. I know my wife is good at visualizing in those sorts of things,
Yes.
right? This could be this. And a lot of women have that skill. And I do not.
Right.
I would not walk into a house and see, oh, that could be that, whatever. But you're doing that for me as a potential buyer of like, this is where the baby's room will be. This will be
Right.
your office, and the
Right.
light is coming in. And so that's part of the marketing. You help me see what you see as the potential for the
Yeah,
place.
like I bring you to a house and you see a shell and I'm like, no, we're going to take that back porch and we're going to close it in and we're going to make it a podcast studio. We're going to allow you to work from home now, or we're going to take that apartment and we're going to split it up into 2 apartments and you can get 2 rental incomes on studios versus 1 on a 1 bed. Like, you just got to be a problem solver. I remember for the longest time my bio just said problem solver.
And that's something that you can bring to the table that not every agent can do.
No, because it's half of it's personality, half of it is observation, half of it is life experience, and just I'm one of those people that people are like, you think you know everything. I'm like, I kind of know a lot of stuff though. Like, not everything, but I know about a lot of different things, and that's what goes into the work.
There's a naming thing too you guys do, right? That I'm like, this is your soft bar. This is your this, your that. And I'm like, did they? Oh, they just came up with that.
We come up with neighborhoods. We do whatever we want.
I know you guys.
You, especially in Brooklyn, you know that's true.
I know. It's Brooklyn. All right, let's get really Brooklyn because I live in Fort Greene.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nationally known neighborhood. And we are like, what is Clinton Hill?
Right. Wherever we say it is.
Right. No, but agents do, right? Is there a meeting where we say, okay, we're going to name this area Dumbo, which will be sexier than what it was called before?
I never know where they come from. But I think what agents do is they stretch those lines for what those neighborhoods are. Like, I'm sure there'll be places where we'll call Fort Greene, and you being a Fort Greener would be like, absolutely not.
Not Fort Greene.
that is under the bridge or whatever,
right,
you know?
Right.
But, like, it's just what we do. I never know where the neighborhood names come from, but I always want to come up with one if I ever get a chance.
What do you make of the whole thing of African Americans not getting value for their homes in many situations? You know what I'm talking about? Where our homes are being valued less by, what is the name of the
appraisal?
The appraisers. Because there's, and sometimes you see Black people sort of, I don't know what we call it, like de-blacking their home, like have a white person pretend to own it, take off the pictures, take off any African, whatever.
Yeah. Hiring a white agent as opposed to a Black agent.
I mean, what do we do? I mean, our community has lost out on $1 billion nationwide, intergenerationally, of just real estate value that was lost because some appraisers were like, well, it's worth this because it's Black people.
Right. Well, they need more diversity in the appraisal industry. Like, I've done more appraisals than I would ever be able to count. I never miss my appraisal. That's one thing I will not delegate. And I have come across 2 Black appraisers in all of those hundreds and hundreds. I don't even know if it's been 1,000. I don't know how many deals I've done. And 1 Black woman. And then at the end of the appraisal, I was like, I'm sorry, I just have to ask you, like, I never see this ever. And she was like, yeah, and I do work, and I do trainings, I do this, but there's no diversity in the industry. They all look the same. And I'm guilty of it too. I've definitely had colleagues cover my appraisals if I was having a challenge with an appraisal or if I was redoing it. But the industry as a whole just doesn't lean in my favor. Never has, never will, So the appraisal is just one side of it. But I've figured out all of the, not really policies, but the practices that make sense for me to win in those situations for my client, because I'm working with my client and I want them to get the proper value for their home. And I'm a person that's typically selling a home above market, like especially in some specific neighborhoods. Like, people call me because they're like, she'll get it done. She'll get the number. And there are things I do that I wish I didn't have to do to get the number. But, I won't tell you. But there are things that I do because I understand the biases that I have to work with, in general. I mean, there's certain pitches I would never get. There are a lot of sellers that would never work with me, The volume that I do, there are people that do that volume on far less transactions because they're working in far higher price points. For me to even be audacious enough to think that I should be in luxury is something to say in real estate in New York. That's the truth. Because there's not a lot of us, and some people would say there's none of us. But I can't fix that unless I can fix the economic wealth gap. So all I can do is try to keep a positive mindset around something that's extremely biased and unfair. It's the worst example of equitable you'd ever see, ever, And you see that, like, if you look at my comments and my responses, like, every 10th or 11th comment is, you should be doing more than anybody on this show. I don't understand. That's the comment, because they're just like, okay, we see it, the whole cast.
You seem to be the most professional salesperson on the show.
Yeah, and maybe that's the way that the show comes across, but it could also be the way it is, but it doesn't matter, because if you look at the price points, there's no fairness there.
What's the most expensive home you sold?
I think 13 or just under 13 million.
In Brooklyn.
Yeah, it was a Brooklyn Law School's residential towers. So it was like these, like like 4-story, 5-story like housing. But there's a lot of apartments. I want to say 18 of them, maybe 23. I can't remember, but that would be the highest. Done a lot of 5 and 6 millions, and that's like, that doesn't sound like much to me. But I'd be sitting here all day thinking of another Black woman that I know that does that regularly in New York or in Brooklyn. I know that there are people, but I can't think of anyone. I don't know that you'd be able to either.
The big subtext of the show, or the big sort of story arc of the show, was they're trying to sell this $250 million apartment on 57th Street and 6th Avenue, which overlooks Central Park. Didn't get it done, but one of the big things was you sort of like kind of pushing up in your boss's face and being like, why was I not included among those who could sell that? Which takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us in any number of fields have felt like, how come I didn't get that opportunity as the one or few Black people in the office? Some of us are empowered and courageous enough to go to the boss and say, why not me?
Yeah.
And some of us are not able to do that. Just that part of it. How do you go in any field to your boss and say, you can't discount me because I'm Black. Like, I'm just as good or better than everybody.
Yeah, and it wasn't you can't discount me because I'm Black. It was you can't discount me at all. You can't. Why wasn't I in the room? But you all don't know why I wasn't in the room is that I was on vacation in the middle of the Mediterranean. And I was still pissed about it because I was like, it doesn't matter. You guys should have had the meeting when I got back, And what stuck out for me is like, I don't know how many billionaires there are in the world, but this is a billionaire purchase, and I don't know any billionaires. And there's valid reason why I wasn't in the room. So Ryan wasn't wrong for that. It's like knowing someone's client body, he wants those specific agents that would even have a chance at knowing that buyer. I don't know any billionaires, so therefore it makes sense. But what I was told was the biggest and brightest stars were invited to this meeting. So once you say the biggest and brightest stars, you're talking about me. Why wasn't I in the room for the biggest and brightest stars? It really wasn't so much about the house as if it is your biggest and your best and your brightest talent here, I need to have my chair. That's what it was. And so that was the reason why the minute I heard it, I was pissed. And that's the reason why I was like, okay, so let me figure out why am I not being considered the biggest and brightest star? Like literally my title is Superstar at Sirhan. That's my title. And, that's why I pushed back on it. But I think, I came into the brokerage this way. I came into the business this way. I came into the business an experienced business owner, an experienced entrepreneur, and a successful one. So I don't need anybody in this industry to tell me who I am. I know who I am, and I knew who I was when I got here. So any firm I've worked at and any supervisor or, authority figure, if you'll call it that I've worked with will tell you the same thing about me. That's how I approach all of them. I want what's due to me. I want more than that. I mean, I've had conversations with Ryan where he's like, well, I want you to I want to always make sure you think it's fair. I'm like, I don't want fair. I want better than fair. Like, whatever she got, I want twice as much. Like, I don't want what everybody else has. Like, I'm not asking for you to treat me fairly. I'm asking for you to treat me better. And I've been that way since I came into the industry. And I know it's because of just what I had done by the time I started, And I don't know, I didn't know how it was going to come off. I didn't know how it was going to come off to people that were watching the show. Like I've had such great feedback, but I was open to not having great feedback because I'm so free that I'm just going to be me. And if you like it, that's great.
Has the show changed your business to make you more people aware of you and
It's changing my business currently. Like the show's only been out for a month, but yeah, it is changing my business instantly. I would say it was changing my business, and that's
by raising your profile.
Yeah, and again, we market. We're marketers. I'm marketing myself, and part of marketing myself is to demonstrate to you how I do my job. So if I can take my career so far that I'm on a global show, I've marketed myself to get there. I didn't.
So are you now working on, because that $250 million place did not get sold.
It did not get sold, and it's
still unsold.
Yeah, it's still unsold, and it has had a significant price drop.
$195 million now?
It's $195 million.
But are you part of the group trying to sell it?
So I'm not part of the group, but anybody that has a client that wants to buy it has open and freedom to work on that project. So I'm not a part of the group. I'm not a part of the conversation, but I absolutely could sell that apartment just like the next person, yes. Because I just need to find the buyer.
It blew my mind when Ryan Serhant said there's 3,000 people in the world who could afford that place, which is in one way a gigantic number of people who could make a $250 million purchase, but also an incredibly difficult thing for a seller, for an agent to find one of 3,000 people on the globe. I mean,
Absolutely.
like, that's a needle in a haystack.
And out of 3,000 people, you're looking for somebody that wants no neighbors. Because when you're up in that tower, like I've been in that apartment, my phone didn't work. You have no neighbors. You'll never have a blind or a curtain because there's nobody up there. It's all windows. And so out of those 3,000 people, who would want to live in the middle of Manhattan and literally have no neighbors? I mean, I would do it in a heartbeat. But that's the buyer
No
that
neighbors
you're
sounds
looking
like a dream.
for. Yeah, like when you look outside, you're just looking into the clouds up there. It's
Yeah.
insane. I have these beautiful pictures in my phone. It's I don't explain it.
I went to a party at a place in that building recently. And it was a really fascinating experience for me. I think I was on the 137th floor or something like that.
Yeah.
And 57th Street is a divider in Manhattan because everything from one side is Central Park, is mostly residential. There's a very peaceful
Calm.
feel to that part of it. And then you look on the other way downtown from 57th.
Buzz.
It's very high. It's very commercial. It's very neon. It's very loud and stress-inducing. And that's the Manhattan that most outsiders think of.
Right.
And I had not realized that 57th Street was that divider of peaceful, residential, bucolic, chaotic, commercial.
Nervous system shot.
Yes.
Yeah. And I love that when I first went to that building, I think it was 2 years ago, I got out of the cab and I was like, I'm going to take a video. So I said, I'm getting ready to go to dinner here. And I went like that. And when I went like that, I literally fell out of my shoes. You can't do that. If you look up at the building, you get so dizzy. Like I didn't hit my footing. I almost fell down the street. Just trying to take a little video. Like the building is so insanely high. And being up there, it's like living in the clouds.
But the seller has carrying costs just holding on to the building.
Yeah.
That apartment.
But they're like one of the most successful developers in the country. Like the building that I sell
But they got to sell it, right?
They have to sell it, of course.
I mean, you're sitting there holding this gigantic bag and holding it month after month. That's a problem.
Yeah. But they're going to sell it. I mean, and they do beautiful work. Like they do high-end luxury buildings. They do beautiful work. Brooklyn Point is one of those.
But you want them to lower the price, don't you?
A little bit more, yeah, of course. And I actually want to sell it. I mean, let me speak that into existence.
Does that knock some of the luster off of it when we keep dropping the price?
I don't think so, because a lot of times you're pricing based on comps, and there's no comps for that house.
Right.
So not to say you're shooting in the dark, but you don't know where it's going to land.
I talked to one real estate agent once who's a friend of mine, and he said something like being a good real estate agent means going through, I think he said 75 doors a week. He was in Manhattan. He's like, I just want to be inside everything that's available. So when somebody says X, I can go, oh, that.
Yep.
So is that part of your work of just
the search? Yeah. But I like to shop, and to me, it's shopping. So like my first year in real estate, I did 4 to 5 open houses every Sunday. And if I didn't have 4 or 5 to do, because I was just covering other people's open houses just to be inside of homes and to be learning homes, and I did it every single week except for Thanksgiving week, my first year. But if I had let's say 3 open houses to cover and I had time, I would go to open houses and walk properties. Yeah. And also you got to pay attention to trends. You got to figure out what's successful, what works, what doesn't work. A lot of times you walk into the homes and you're finding different design solutions too. And you use that when you're solving problems for your client. So you got to know the stuff. It's like, even if you're designing for Michael Kors, you got to know what everybody else is doing,
Right.
And so shopping is a part of it. And that's what I call it, at least.
You talked earlier about pivoting from one career to another, being an entrepreneur, owning multiple. How many nail salons did you have?
I had 2.
And then going into real estate. And some people would think changing careers means, changing everything. But you were able to use what you had gained in one career to boost your entry into the next career.
Yeah, I use it as a foundation for sure. And at first I didn't really know that it would work, but as I was doing it, I started to realize that there's so many things that you just gain from whatever career you're in, and you've got to figure out how to use those tools. So for me, it was definitely the fact that I'd become an excellent marketer. I had become great at making sure the word was out about what I was doing. And so much so that like my small businesses, as small as they were very mighty. Everyone knew my business. Everywhere I went, people knew my business. They would not know my name, but they would call me Polish Bar. Polish Bar's here. Is she here? What's she drinking? Like, that's literally my life. We'd gotten so much press. I mean, you know a lot about Fort Greene, Clinton Hills, so we had like all the creatives and all the writers and all the good stuff, you know? Yeah. So everyone's like, who does your PR? And I'm like, my neighbors, my clients, because everyone that was anyone writing anywhere lived in my community. So like everyone wrote about my business because they were my clients. It was wonderful. And we had such influential clients and such amazing women that came to the beauty business regularly. And those relationships really allowed me to carry over. So when I started my career in real estate, I shared that with my clients. And I was like, I am pursuing something new and it is scary and you're welcome to follow on the journey. And for the first time, I used social media as a way to share who I was and what I was doing. Because when I had my beauty business, I would just hide behind the business and the brand. I was like, just put it out there, you know, let's just worry about the brand, don't worry about me. And then in real estate, you don't have the option to do that because your personality and your relationships is all you start with. So I just started to share, and I found that people connected to me in a way they hadn't for those whole 10 years. They were just personally connected to the story. And I got such great feedback. So many people wrote me letters. I still haven't finished all the letters that I got. And I always say it, like, at the end of the day, no one really cared about nails and nobody really cared about real estate, but they did love the idea of this woman remaking her life and changing everything about what she does. And it was so scary. And they kind of needed to see if it was going to work or maybe just support and, you know, cheer me on. But I felt closer to my clients then than I had all those 10 years that I was in business. And they reached out and they called and they recommended me and they referred me. And my first year, I won an award for Rookie of the Year because I sold 21 houses my first year. Yeah. But it was like the client base, like people in Brooklyn, when they ride for you, they ride for you. Yeah. Yeah. And I had no experience.
But your charisma, your personality is a big part of it, that people have to like you. Yeah. Yeah. Which is tricky. You have to be you have to be you and authentic, but different people are different, want different things. So you kind of have to modulate a little bit depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah. I learned that in beauty, though. We called it style stepping. You know, like when I worked in beauty in college and when I first moved to New York, we were working with clients and we were helping them to buy makeup and we were putting makeup on them and making them beautiful. And like, you don't have any control over who sits down and wants to feel beautiful. They're just going to sit in your chair. Right. And so style stepping was figuring out who they were and who you needed to be to work with them. You know, that was it. And like, is it performing? I don't know. I think people do it at their jobs every day. I think you're doing it now with me and I'm doing it now with you. Sure, yeah. So I think that I learned that and mastered that in beauty. And then by the time I opened my own business, it became what it was. And I think the reason why the business was so successful, and even now, if you look at like a lot of comments I have on social media, they're like, bring Polish Bar back. We want Polish Bar back, you know? And I think it's just because like people just gravitate towards you and they like you. They like what you're doing. They respect how you're doing it, more importantly. And they ride with you from that to that. I'm always like, from manicures to mansions. They don't care. Like, I think I might do a bagel shop one day. They don't care because if they're with you, they're with you. And if you apply yourself in the same way, they'll appreciate it.
I love my wife, but I don't think I could work with her. And your husband is your partner in this. And as I said, at least in the show, he seems like this super supportive person who's like, whatever you need me to do, Tricia, I am here to do that. You are the leader. I will follow you. I will help you. I will support you whatever way you want. Is that the way
Absolutely not. I don't see that, but that's not the way it is, no. Like, first of all, Jeff is a equally, if not more talented broker than I am, period. No one in this industry would say anything different. Like, his reputation is so solid, I don't even care that the global world doesn't see that because his reputation precedes him in general. He started in the business before I did. He had a lot to do with training me. He taught me so much about transactions in the beginning. He still coaches me in so many ways. I will always be like, he's just as good at me. He might even be better, you know? And he'll always say, no, this is definitely a situation where the student has outpaced the teacher. But I'm right. I am right.
But you guys are in argument about, but the working together.
Working together is tough.
Yes. How do you do it?
Yeah, I always say, I'm like, we don't know. Like, I'm still figuring it out. Don't look over here. Just worry about your own mess. Like, I would never want to give the impression that it's perfect, and I definitely would never want to give the impression that I have it figured out. I don't. I'm figuring it out. Like, if I'm going to bring people on my team that I think are the best in their quality, then he is one of those people. So, am I going to let someone else work with him? No, like that just wasn't going to be the solution. Now, we have worked at different brokerages most of our career. So this was the opportunity where I was coming over to Sirhan, and he was like, well, I should join you. We've never worked together before. And I was like, we're going to kill each other. What are you thinking? And he's like, no, we'll just, whatever. One thing about him, though, is he has a very unbothered personality for the most part. Like, there's not a lot of things that he's going to get stuck on. He's like, let's move on. You good? I'm good. Like, he's
But I
he's very
perceive
different.
real estate to be kind of a 24/7 thing.
It
right?
is, and we both are workaholics.
So are there rules, or does it bleed in all day? Are we having dinner and talking about deals that we're working on or whatever? Like, or do we say like, okay, after 9 p.m. we stop talking about work?
There are boundaries. There are definitely boundaries. I would say 6:30 to 7 is more like it. You know what I mean? Because for the most part, we are kind of wrapping up our day around 6:30 or 7. So there are definitely boundaries. And like, you're not going to be at dinner talking about work, or, that's just not allowed. And then there's a day, we both take off Saturdays. So no, like those are very strict rules. And if you're going to say something about work, it's always like, I know we're not supposed to be talking about work, but whatever. But we really do follow that pretty well. But there's also that grace, because sometimes you're just excited about something, and it is 11 o'clock at night, and you're excited, and he's excited if I'm excited or whatever. So I think it's just a work in progress as well. Like, we're just trying to figure it out. But we do have, like, framework of what it's supposed to be. But there are times where we're just like so hyped about something. And we're also very creative, him and I. Like both sides of our brain are very active at all times. And so like I am the person that knows the details, the specs, the numbers, whatever. And I'm also the person that has like video ideas and is like trying to design the space and wants to restage. So we both like what we do a lot, and we both are very competitive, but we do have a good framework for like what's a time to stop talking about work and to focus on our relationship. But because we were always in the business, it wasn't that big of an adjustment. It wasn't like we were both already working in the same way. We were just at different firms. So a lot of times we would come home and talk about our day anyways.
When you talk about videos, and you remind me of something from the show where one of the agents did a video to promote the space, which included partly video of her dancing, fairly suggestively is a big word, but like I think one can dance in a classy way, and one can dance in a, let's say, a more professional or less professional way.
Right.
And I mean, I felt like, wow, that's a little extra for a person who's saying, trust me with your $1 million transaction.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not the way to do it.
Yeah. I don't think it's the way to do it, but I think it's the way that she does it. I think it's the way she insists on doing it. I think it's just her personal style. I think she thinks that it will be successful. I love that in the trailer that she says, and I like Jade, like I think she's cool, but she says, I made that building sexy as sexy. It's like, that's what's important to her. And that's what she leads with. And like, I don't get it. But I respect it, because it's like she doesn't ever give up. She never breaks it.
I mean, I would have liked to see other women are dancing, because she's trying to illustrate this is a creative space that you can use in multiple ways.
Yeah.
So I'm in my suit or whatever. These other women are dancing. If you want to talk about buying the space, come to me, because I'm not dancing.
Yeah.
And I think as a woman in that sort of situation, once you start dancing or doing certain things, you have transitioned into being seen in a different way.
Yeah, that's and she's deliberately choosing that. Like, when she comes to the office, you'll see like what she wears and like the things that she'll have on. Like, she believes that to be her brand. Like that's where she's at with it. Yeah.
You remind me of a certain real estate horror story that we lived through, my wife and I. We were searching in Fort Greene, found the place we wanted, put in an offer, and then suddenly we were told after much conversation, like, oh, the deal has fallen through and it's not, and we can't fix it. And I'm like, what do you mean the deal fell through?
Yeah.
I thought we were like halfway there. And she's like, no, it fell through. And she said something that made me think, because we really wanted the place, and let me call the other agent and just see like if we can do something. And the other agent was like, well, our agent had said something, I forget exactly what, she had said something inappropriate to the other agent that then led her to say, well, I'm not working with you anymore.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
And we're going to another buyer. And we had to write a letter to the developer, basically apologizing and saying
Yes.
we're lovely people and like
We're nothing like her.
We're nothing like her. We don't know her. We just met her. Like we're like, and we did end up getting the place, but it was like, it was definitely like she had all this confidence and verve and completely screwed up the deal when it's like, can you just be professional and straight ahead? And like, no, I can't.
Yeah. I love that you had the insight to think of it calling the other agent, though, because some people would have just taken no as a no and just walked away.
Well, we love the place.
Yeah, you're like, no, I'm getting my house. I love that.
I think there was another agent. I think my wife is friends with an agent who was like in another area and was like, try calling the other agent. Because the story is not adding up.
Yeah.
The story she's telling you is not
like
adding up.
things just don't fall apart. Like if you're in the middle of something and you would know why. You would know like if something comes in and like you have to compete now, like that'll happen a lot, and especially in Fort Greene. They'll be like, okay, these are terms, these are good, we'll agree, and then like somebody comes behind you 5 minutes later, it's like, nope, we can beat all that. That happens every day. But that was good. I don't know. That's for me. Like everyone kept saying, oh, you're very professional. You're very professional. Well, this is my work. Like what was I supposed to be? Like,
right.
This is literally my career.
Right.
Like, I like nice things. I'm at work. What did you want? And also, for me, I think I wanted to see someone like myself on reality TV. So I wanted to show up like myself and be my full self. And that is me at work. I mean, I say like a lot of smart things too. And I have a smart mouth, but I'm at work and I'm always working on those relationships. All those brokers and colleagues of mine, those are the people I do deals with. So my reputation amongst them is the most important, and not a lot of people get that in the business, but I get it. I understand
it takes a team, right? You're not it's not just you selling it by yourself. You require the other folks, their connections, their help to get things done.
Because we have to get to an agreeable moment. And also like, I need to make sure your experience working with me is positive, because we'll run into each other again and you'll remember what the experience was. So there are times where, I'll do and help them in ways that I can just to make the transaction a better experience for everybody, because everybody has to win. Otherwise, somebody walks away pissed. That's important. Being organized, following up, just being responsive in this day and age, just being responsive, like getting off your phone, getting off of social media, and like truly having a structure to your day and following up with your clients. You have to build out your reputation. And to me, I started building out my brand when I moved to New York. That's when I started building out my brand. So I don't care what I'm selling. I could be selling hot dogs tomorrow. And I still have the same standard for what it is that I do. I still want people to feel that they find value in how I present and how I bring them to the finish line with my work.
But you believe you could sell anything.
I know I can, yeah.
You could sell me a pen.
Anything. I could sell anything. Are you kidding? I was like 7 years old with my first business cleaning houses.
What?
Yeah. Like I used to go to Walgreens and like I lived in like a condo development in Arizona, and I was like, we should clean these people's houses and we can get $3 here, $5 here. I had a cleaning company at like maybe 7 or 8 years old, I think. Like I might have to ask my mom, but I would put my little like price list together and I'd walk to Walgreens and copy my little price list and I'd stick it all over the condo development, and I hired all my sisters, friends, because they were 2 years younger and they were cheap labor, and I'd be cleaning houses and we made money. Like I've been working my whole life. Like I've always been that person.
How would you sell me a pen?
Oh God. I'd figure out what's missing in your life and tell you the pen can fill it, or find a pen that can fill it.
But see, that's just it, that I'll find out what's missing in your
Yeah.
life. Your first thought had nothing to do with the pen.
No, what do you need?
And talk about what do I
Where are the
need?
voids?
That's the first question.
What do people make you feel like that and you don't want to feel like that anymore? Like, let me figure that out about you. I have to spend the day with you. And by the end of the day, I would figure out what that is and I'd go find a pen that could solve that, or at least make you feel it, solve it, make you feel better about it.
But I need to, you as a seller, I need to know the buyer as a human being to be able to speak to their needs, their fears, their desires.
As a seller, which are the majority of my clients, I need to be able to take your home and make it something that everybody wants. And I have to be able to influence you to do that. Like, I have to be able to guide you because it's your house, right? I leave here and you're still living in your house. So I have to be trustworthy. I have to be somebody that can, I mean, I always tell people this, you have to be influential as a salesperson. It's not just knowing what people need to do, it's getting them to do it. I need to get you to stage your home. I need to get you to take that stuff off the windows, get you to change that facade. I need to get you to do those things because those are the things I know will lead to the goal that you said you wanted. Remember what you said you wanted? That's where we're trying to get to. So I have all the knowledge. You have to follow what I say, and I have to make you do it in whatever way your mind works around decision making. You know, maybe you need to feel like it's your decision, and that's the delivery that I have to use. Maybe you need to feel like you're being told and you just in one aspect of your life don't have to make any decisions and this is it. Tricia makes every decision for me. Then that's how I deliver it. But I need to get this house to a point where everybody wants it. That's the goal. And that's because you're not happy just to sell the house. You actually want to sell it for this specific price point that makes you happy.
But the specifics of the thing you are selling is secondary to the needs, fears, and desires of the buyer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I'm only on one side of the transaction. So I'm either on the side where I am making it beautiful and showing it off with the seller, or I am doing that with the buyer. So it's one or the other. Like my first few years, I worked only with buyers. So it was that psychology game. And I'll never forget, the top agent in my office was a previous psychologist. And I was like, that's why. Nobody ever talks about that, but that's why she's so successful.
Because she's a psychologist.
She's a former psychologist.
So she understands these folks. Wait, do you care? Do you prefer being a buyer's rep to a seller's rep? Does it matter?
I like being a seller's rep because I like the marketing that goes into it. On a buy side, you know, it is definitely more managing of the buyer and what their needs are and figuring out all those unique points of their personality and their lifestyle. On the seller side, you're doing that with a product and you're marketing the product. And I like that a lot. So I think my business just leans more 70% list side and 30% buy side. A lot of the buyers I work with are people that I'm selling your house. I'm helping you find another house too. And not to say that I don't work well with buyers. It's just the stuff that I have fun with is kind of what I lean more into. And I love the marketing. That's what I enjoy doing. I don't feel like that's work.
I have this sort of crazy analogy that's coming to my mind. Tell me if this is insane, but it feels to me like when you are representing the seller, the home that is being sold is kind of the feminine because it wants to be beautiful and to attract, right? And it just sort of, you know, stays in place to attract someone to come in.
Yes.
Whereas when you are the buyer, you are going out and searching and trying to acquire.
What do I need?
Right? So that becomes more masculine sort of thing.
Hunting, maybe, perhaps?
Yes, exactly.
Gathering,
Is that sort of...
It could feel that way, yeah. Hunting and gathering versus, yeah, it could feel that way. And I can do both, you know?
of course, you or a male
Yeah.
could do both,
Yeah.
but just the action to me in the world.
Yeah. And there's certain agents that do really well on the buy side. That's their sweet spot. Like, that is where they shine. It's where I had to shine my first few years because all of my clients were buyers, like the first few years. I wouldn't say all, but like I would say 80% were buyers, yeah. It's just a different tool. And then if you're like super hyper local with where you work, then you probably do a lot of both because you're just moving people around in a circle. You know, if Brooklyn people kind of stay in Brooklyn, like that's kind of the thing, you know, like except for when they decide to jump to Jersey, which I'll never understand. I get so upset. Like, why are you doing this to me?
It's a whole different world.
I get so upset. I'm like, are we still gonna be friends?
I know. I mean, I think when we were younger, Jersey was, especially for upper middle class black people, like Jersey was like, that's when you made it. When you moved out to Alpine or whatever, right? Chris Rock had that whole bit about like Alpine, New Jersey, and there's I live next to a dentist, and me and Mary J. Blige and Patrick, you live. But now Brooklyn, and especially Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Dumbo, what else is sort of taking that. Like, you can get fantastic places, great neighborhoods in the best areas of Brooklyn. You don't have to go to New Jersey.
Yeah, and it's far more expensive too in Brooklyn.
New Jersey.
In Brooklyn, well, Brooklyn's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Those areas you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Maybe similar, I would say.
Yeah. If you were going to sell my home, which you have not seen, what would you do? Like, what is your process? Tricia, we want to sell it. We want, whatever, millions. Like, so what is the Tricia experience? What happens?
We talk about timeline process. We talk about, like, let's put together a plan. Like, I do an action plan for what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And then we start on the product. We start on the home. We get, like, I go through, I do a whole checklist with you. Like, what are we going to change? What are we going to update? What are we going to keep just the same? What are we going to highlight? Then we just start building the story around it, like how we're going to market it, who we're going to market it to. We try to figure out immediately, like, who our core colleagues are that we're going to be marketing it to.
You mean the other agents?
The other agents, yeah. There's thousands of them, and we figure out, like, what 200 of them are doing the most business at this price point in this neighborhood, and we find them. We also are figuring out, like, what your next steps are, because you never want to be in a transaction with somebody and you don't have nowhere to go, and I done sold your house. So it's like a plan to sell your house and a plan to get you out of it at the same time. There's two plans going on at the same time. So we're doing that. Then we start on the marketing plan of the house and, showing and sharing and trying to get press around the home. Whatever this sale requires, we are doing it. And also, again, making sure you're actively preparing to leave, because we've had people that are like, wait, I have to leave. Like,
I didn't think you were gonna get the price. Now I gotta go handle. Okay,
it happens.
Was there any trepidation about doing the show? Because sometimes reality shows, this is a work process reality show, so the intention is not to make people look bad. It's not Real Housewives, but sometimes people look great on reality shows. Sometimes they don't. You do not have any control over the editing.
No.
So you don't know what they're going to use. And they're probably on your side for the most part. They don't want you to look bad.
Maybe.
But some of the agents on the show do walk away looking bad.
Yeah. I didn't have any trepidation because I wasn't a reality TV watcher. I still don't watch reality TV that much. But I felt like the little that I had seen, I didn't really feel like I saw myself really in any of it. And I was like, I don't know. When the opportunity came, I was like, I want to get on there and show someone like me. I want women to see someone like me. I want the world to see someone like myself. Because I know a lot of people like me. All my friends are like me. My neighbors are like me. So I actually was excited about it. I thought it was going to be a great opportunity. And I just went into it knowing that I wouldn't have control over edit. I wouldn't have control over perception, because sometimes it's not even edit. Like, people seem to think that these producers are like, oh, we're just going to try to ruin your life. That's not their intention. They're trying to just tell a great story about what it is that you do and how you do it. But perception, I don't have any control over how you perceive me, and I have a strong personality. I know that. I have a strong presence. I know that. And I knew that I wouldn't have any control over it. So what I did while I was shooting is, and preparing for the last 2 years, I just started doing some really deep self-work on getting to a place where it didn't matter, really, if you liked me or not, because I thought that was the true work that I needed to do. And I thought that this opportunity would put me in a situation where I would be forced to get over what people think of me.
What does that work entail?
Me?
The self-work you talked about, that to prepare yourself for the audience's reaction.
So, like, some of the things that I did was, like, I did an improv class, which to me was pretty much only making a fool of myself in front of people. Like, I was like, is that what we're doing? Because that's what it felt like. But, after 5 or 6 days of doing that, you're just like, you don't care. You just look like, if they're like, oh, be a donkey, then you're just a donkey. Or be a sloth. You're just a sloth in front of a room full of people. And I think when I started, I was like, I hate this. This is horrible, because my ego was in it. And then by the end, it's just like, it's kind of freeing just to, like, be like, whatever, who cares? So it was something as simple as that. Some of it was just like the things that I was reading, the things I was allowing to influence my mind. I had gotten to a point where I kind of started shutting down just certain types of content around me. I started committing to going to church more. I just really wanted to work on myself, like the deep, deep part of myself, and try to really figure out, even in therapy, like, what is the value of someone's opinion of you? Like, why? How heavy is it to you? How much do you weigh it? Because I knew that putting myself and my world and my mouth and my life out for the world to digest meant that I was going to hear back how they felt about it. And I just wanted to be like armored with the ability to allow it to, just bounce off of me, because I can't let that impact my life. I got a business to run. I got a family to take care of. I got a workout to get to. And I just thought it was like, I felt like the opportunity was the show, but the real opportunity was that work. Like, that's what I thought about. And I was like, now you have a deadline. You're forced to do that type of work. And so I kind of got to a place about 6 weeks into filming where I completely got out of my head and stopped thinking about the impression that I was leaving upon people for every person that looked like me in the world, or how I was representing every Black woman in every space, because that's the stuff I would think about constantly. It was like, if I do this, then everyone's going to think that. And I broke it. I broke through at some point, and I just was like, I just want to be a free Black woman on TV. That's all I want to be. That's all I want to be. I just want to be free. And like, you can love it, you can hate it. I don't care what you do.
You are, for sure, a free Black woman.
That's all I wanted.
On that show.
I was like, if the most boss-ass thing I can do is just be myself and not worry about what y'all think about it.
But the confidence, the self-confidence that you bring into the show is really inspiring.
Thank you. I need it. I need it to do what I do. I need it to be who I am. I need it to be in this world. You know that. And I'm in a world where I'm trying to do something where people that look like me don't do it every day. And I can't get discouraged even when I want to get discouraged. I'm discouraged a lot. So I armor myself with that confidence. I armor myself with the belief in myself. And I just think it's really important, Like, Orion has this big thing he always says, be nice, be humble. Be nice, be humble. Be nice, be humble. And I always want to say to him, and I'm going to say this to him one day, like, I don't need to do that. The world humbles me. Like, you're a 6'5" billionaire. Like, yeah, you need to be nice and be humble.
Ryan Surratt's a billionaire?
I don't know if he's a billionaire, but I think he is. If he's not a billionaire, he will be one soon. Like, he literally,
But a 6'5" former model.
Yeah, you still look like a model. Get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, I love that he's that humble, though. He really, truly is.
But humility...
But I don't feel that I need to be.
There is value in humility, but in us, it can come across differently.
Yeah.
And I sense a respect for other human beings from you that goes along with humility.
Of course.
But the letting your light shine, letting the world see your self-confidence is valuable and important for you as a Black person, because so many of the people around you may misjudge you.
Yeah.
Right? And
misinterpret me.
You got to kind of walk in the room and be like, I'm the shit. And then go, oh, wow.
And she believed it so much. I think, let me go over there and ask her what, that's what it is. But I feel like I am drawn to humble. I am drawn to humility. I am, but I don't feel that I need to be. Like, I feel like the world humbles me every day. Like, the world humbles me. The way that I can approach a business opportunity and be more prepared and more articulate and have better receipts, have better, just facts and things to back it up and present better, and maybe still never be considered by somebody because of the way I look. It's just that simple. That happens to me every day still in this business all the time, and I've shown what I can do. So the world humbles me. I don't have to worry about humility. I have to worry about my light. That's what I have to worry about. Like, that's just what it comes down to, And I know who I am. I know the type of people I come from. I know so much more about myself now than I did my whole life. I learned a lot about my birth mother in the last few years, and I've learned
You're
a lot.
You're
adopted. You could say that. Yeah, I was raised by my stepmom, but my whole life I was with her. And my birth mother passed away when I was very, very young. And the last 2.5 years, I learned a lot about her. When I say deep work, that's what I mean. I learned her story, and I had never known her story my whole life, and I learned it November 22. And that came together for me in such a way that it was like, oh, I'm out here trying to prove myself to be these things that I already am. Like, I was already that. And, You know how they say, like, you get through your traumas and you lose all ambition? Have you ever heard that saying? There's a saying out there that it's like, the minute I healed, I lost all my ambition. And the thought process is, we're just trying to do and be. We're just, and improve, right? So I go through this life-changing experience in November 22 where I learn who I am, like, inside chemically, like, what my makeup is. And I learned that my birth mother was a Brooklyn badass woman that owned a bunch of businesses and ran around and everybody knew her and she was a big deal. And that day changed my life because I was like, oh, I ain't got nothing to prove to none of y'all. I was ready that.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's what I come from.
It's what I come from.
That's who I am.
Mm-hmm. And so if you knew her and you know me, like listening to someone describe her, I just teared up because I was like, oh my God, that's how my friends describe me. Like those are the things, or, you know, one of her friends were saying, you know, your mom used to always say, and he's saying this saying, and I'm finishing the saying. A woman I've never met. So I think the deep work that I've done is what I'm most proud of. And I think that's what comes through in the confidence, because it's like, y'all don't even know. y'all could never know. Y'all could never get it. So I feel like in the last couple of years, I've come to a place where I realize I've always been who I am. And I don't have to prove it to anybody, you know, and that has lifted a load off of the overworker, overachiever, busy bee, kill yourself to get it done person. It's lifted a load off of them because it's like, oh, you're already that. Like, you're already that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have nothing to do. You don't have nothing to prove to anybody. You just are. And I grew taller, you know, and I hope that my power is present because it's in me and it always has been, you know, and I use the word power a lot because I feel very powerful, and I hope that people feel my power when they're in my presence. Because I feel powerful, you know. I think that figuring out who you are is a gift that some people don't get, and I never had it, and then I had it, and it was wonderful.
Did you watch? That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
Did you watch the show?
I watched it one day, one time, the 28th when it came out.
The whole thing?
The whole thing with a couple cast members at my house. I did a breakfast buffet. We ate the world, and we sat down, and we watched every episode in our pajamas from 7 a.m. to maybe noon or 1.
With a bunch of surround people who were on the show?
Just a couple.
Yeah.
Just a couple of the cast. And I think we felt like we were going to go out into the world after this. We wanted to be prepared, and I thought we felt like we could get energy from each other, and it was cool. But I was sleep deprived.
On the show?
No, the day that I was watching the show. So there's still things about the show I'm learning because I only watched it once. I was like, I'm not going to obsess over this show. I'm just going to watch it once and let it go. But sometimes it's on, like, I'll look at it again on Netflix and then I'll see different scenes. I'm like, oh, that happened? Because the day that I was watching it, I was so tired. Like, we'd been doing so much. And just to watch all the episodes, I was like, you know. And also, I just am not interested in some storylines. Like, some of the storylines just are like, I'm not interested in those people, so I'm not interested in their storylines. Like, that's just the truth. Like, this is very much reality TV because really I'm not that interested in this person. So I would zone out or I'd get up and leave and just do something else, go to the kitchen or whatever. So I'm still, like, learning about different things that happened in the show, but I only watch the show full through, one time, beginning to end.
You like the way that you look?
Not always. I like the way I show up. You know, I think I show up like myself.
Yeah, I didn't mean visually. I mean, like, do you like the way you come off on the show?
I think so. Like, everyone from, like, my mom, my sister, my childhood babysitter, my high school friends, my college friends, my neighbors now are like, this is just exactly who you are. Everyone said, that's the only thing I ever heard was like, yep, pretty much. Like, people I haven't seen in 20 years was like, yep, that's Tricia. You know, so I was proud of that because that was my goal. My personal goal was to just be myself. I was like, I really want to be myself. That's super, super important, even if it's not always liked or appreciated, you know, because I think that being myself is bossy. Like, that's pretty bossy just to get on here and just be yourself and not let the world of reality TV dictate who you want to be, but just be you and let them figure it out. And I stuck to that, and I was proud of that. You know, because I could see how it is easy to go left. I can definitely see.
I mean, you know, if I stick a camera in your face for weeks and weeks, right? And you guys are shooting for weeks, right?
Weeks? I shot for 10 months, 10 and a half months. Yeah.
So, I mean, we could make you look almost any way we want.
Yeah.
If you have that much footage.
Yeah. But, And I feel like I was myself. I say a lot of smart things, like the dancing part. I was like, that's a joke, and they catch that because that's how I felt. But I would say that to her, I've said that to her, I hope that everyone felt as free as I did. I really do, because it made it just much easier. And I didn't feel that way in the beginning. The first 6 weeks I was just bombing because I was so busy worrying about what people would think. And then once I let myself just go, it was like, okay, this is cool. Like, come with me. This is going to be a crazy ass day. Let's go, And then they're like in my car with me. They're going to pitches with me. They just did whatever we did. Like wherever we were, like I'm driving down Myrtle, they're with me on Myrtle. Yeah. So it was crazy. It was a crazy time for sure.
I usually talk to people who come on the show about what it means to them to be Black and how that sort of shows up in their lives or shows up in the work. And we've kind of talked about that, but what does it mean to you to be Black?
I think it means to be really powerful. I think it requires that. Yeah. Power from like understanding like your origin, where you come from, what you have, what you need to do, how to do it. Just to be, strong and headstrong and unbreakable in a lot of ways, even when you feel broken sometimes. I think that's a lot of our experiences. But I guess I land on powerful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was awesome.
Oh, good. I'm glad you
Thank
liked
so
it.
much. Hey, if you like what you saw today, be sure to check out more Touré Show content right here. Don't forget to click that subscribe button for more Touré Show content every week.